Yo, 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 my beautiful brothers and sisters, and welcome to this channeled message. Today is Sunday, the 16th of September. It is currently 12:30 a.m., so it's really early in the morning here. And your boy works in the morning at 10:30. But this message has been wanting to come out in my system. It's been wanting to be expressed for honestly probably the past couple of days, but or definitely the past 24 hours. But I've had to marinate on it, and things just have to happen in divine timing. But this is a message that I've been wanting to I've been wanting to get out for a while now, and we're just going to kind of hop right on into it. But first of all, just going to be sending you all some love, a lot of love, trusting that you've had a beautiful weekend so far, a beautiful day, a beautiful moment. We all have, we all are some incredible troopers. I'm telling you what, we've been really have been exposed to quite the cosmic energies this year. Really over the past 6 years, really. It's been a wild 6 years, hasn't it? Does anybody really remember what it was like pre-2012? Like seriously, like I kind of remember it, but it really does feel like it does have the whole essence of the good old days. And it's kind of like, back then, some of us might have been studying this sort of stuff, we might have been aware. I know for me personally, I became aware of the law of attraction, I think it was around 2004 to 2005, 2006, somewhere in that time frame. And that was those 2 to 3 years were very formidable for me. I experienced a lot of I actually experienced a great deal of trauma during that time, but also some of the biggest miracles of my life during that time. But that was when I came actually to knowing the law of attraction. That was middle school, like early high school for me. So, but yeah, we have been, I said, exposed to some very intense and powerful and transformative energies. And we are about to enter into another transformative period. When I was thinking about this topic, I was really thinking about the spirit realm. I was thinking about Neptune. I was thinking about its relation to being in Virgo season. And Virgo season is coming to an end. I think the sun is about, look it up real quickly, but I want to say the sun's at 23 degrees of Virgo. So it is, coming to a close. But, we have about a week left, and then we'll be at the fall equinox, which is heralded by the beginning of Libra season. So whenever we reach a cardinal sign, that is when the equinox begins. So at least here in the northern hemisphere, fall begins, and then the southern hemisphere, spring begins. And this is a very important time. This is an incredibly important time because it is actually during this time where the veil between the physical 3D dimension, this realm, and the more etheric planes and the spiritual planes of existence actually begins to become thinner. And this even makes sense when you look at our holidays, because what is the first holiday going into fall? Halloween, which is Scorpio season, mind you, but it's Halloween. And that's a day that, we talk about ghouls and ghosts and vampires and bats. Vampires and bats is probably redundant. You get all that sort of stuff. But it's like we are really much so interested in the spookiness of it all. Then of course you have the Day of the Dead celebrations that you have in Hispanic traditions. And then as you continue, as the veil gets thinner and thinner, Thanksgiving rolls around, and it's a time where you want to get closer to family because you want to maintain that warmth. At least here in the northern hemisphere, as things get colder, you want to maintain that warmth. So what do? Family comes together, because it's by coming together that we create more of that warmth. And then Christmas rolls around, which is Capricorn season, which actually is the beginning of winter, and that's even when things are getting colder. So you want to keep the warmth even more. But I wanted to talk about. I really want to talk about this transition that we're about to go into autumn or fall, autumnal, fall equinox. When the sun enters into Libra and is technically in its fall position, technically, because you know the sun is exalted in Aries. So when the sun goes into Libra, it's in its fall position. It spends less time in the sky, perceivably. And this is really important. Now the reason why this is important is because this means that we are getting closer to that Neptunian energy. Now, as it stands right now, the sun is in Virgo, right? And Virgo is about, you know, getting things done, organization, day-to-day reality, service, health, routine. So, if you were to kind of look at a chart and you were essentially to put the sun on the first house, which I use Placidus, but also it's also good to know the first house sun position too, because that tells you a lot about how energies are coming at you. So let's just say that right now Virgo is the first house, right? And it is in many ways because at this time, anyone who was born during the time of Virgo, you can tell what their ascendant is based off of the time, right? That's how you figure out the ascendant in the houses. But what helps you to figure that out is essentially based off of, and these are just kind of rounded times, but essentially for the first 2 hours of the day, which is about 6 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock a.m., that is the time where the first house is Virgo, or the first space, or the first energy being expressed is coming through the Virgo energy. From 8 to 10, it'll be coming through the Libra energy. From 10 to 12, it'll be coming through the Scorpio energy. So that's kind of a way that you can figure out someone's ascendant without even looking at their chart. It's just simply asking if you know what time they are born at, you don't even have to necessarily look at a chart to kind of figure out their ascendant. That's one way you can actually calculate it. And that's just kind of rounding off the times. Of course, you will know more definitively if you're able to look at their chart. But say if someone came to you, they knew their sun and their moon, but they didn't necessarily know their rising, which helps them to know their houses, which helps them to know how these energies play out in their life in the different circumstances. If they told you, well, I know I was born at 8 o'clock in the morning, or 7 o'clock in the morning. Let's just say 7 o'clock in the morning, that'll be easier. Say that they're born during the time of Cancer, and they're born at 7 o'clock in the morning. More than likely, they are a double Cancer. They have a Cancer sun and a Cancer ascendant, right? So, what's interesting here is that taking this into consideration, Neptune right now, which is in Pisces, its home, which is opposite of Virgo, which in many ways represents spirituality, imagination, magic, also rules delusions, illusions as well. So, but it does rule the space, this energy. And it's interesting to see that while the sun is in Virgo, the first house, that Neptune is the 7th house, right? So it's about relationships. So what makes Virgo energy and what makes Virgo season so interesting is the fact that it's the first house. That means we're personifying this and we're really acting on this. This is why things in Virgo season seem so real. But at the same time, we are actually beginning to open up that bridge and that connection, because the 7th house in many ways is a bridge. We're opening up that bridge and that connection to the world of spirit, right? Even if you look at Libra's glyph, it kind of looks like a bridge. At least it does to me. It looks like a bridge. What's interesting is that when the sun shifts into Libra, which is the 7th sign of the zodiac, thus heralding the beginning of the upper half of the zodiac, which is arguably the more spiritual side of the zodiac. Not saying that the first 6 signs aren't, but the first 6 signs deal more with the person, with the personal journey, whereas the second 2 deal a little bit more with the spiritual journey, the second half of it. So when the sun moves into Libra, Pisces becomes the 6th house, which means that it actually becomes real. Spirit actually becomes real. It becomes more part of your day-to-day reality. This is what makes this time of the year so interesting, this transition, because it really does mark this turning point within our consciousness, where we have taken all that we have learned from the first 5 months of the year, the 6 months of the year, and by 6 months I mean the astrological months: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. So by the time that we have reached the 7th house, or the 7th space energy of Libra, it begins to make spirit more real. Which means that once we reach Libra season, you are essentially talking to other people's higher self. If you think about this, there's really only 6 signs. If you think about it. If you want to take it further, there's only 1 sign. But if you really want to look at it, there's only 6 signs. Right? You have Aries and Libra, which are 2 sides of the same coin. Taurus and Scorpio, Gemini and Sagittarius, Cancer and Capricorn, Leo and Aquarius, and Virgo and Pisces. They're just different expressions of the same energy. Almost like a yin and yang. Actually like a yin and yang. But there can be yang forms of the feminine signs as well. So I mean, it goes deep. It really does. But what's interesting about this time is that while Aries does rule the self, the personality, and the ego, and the interesting thing about Libra is that it does rule relationships and marriage. You would think that it doesn't necessarily have ego. But what happens is that when you reach Libra season, and this is a time where typically you're wanting to get out more, you're wanting to associate more, communicate with more people, what's happening is that you are taking the first 6 months of the year, of the astrological year, and all that you've learned in your personal development, and now you're beginning to broadcast it out into the world. And in fact, what happens is that you are starting to talk more with other people's higher self. Their higher self is beginning to be channeled in more into this reality. That's why Pisces is the 6th house of Libra. Because it's almost like the everyday reality for Libra is spiritual in nature. It's magical in nature. It just comes across, it might come across maybe not as so, because once you reach the 7th house, which begins a Libra, if you have a Libra sun or a Libra ascendant, you know, whether you're using the equal sun on the 1st house system or you're using a Placidus, you know, the upper half of the zodiac for Libra begins at Aries, right? The veil between this realm and the spiritual realm is becoming thinner. That's what we're feeling right now. Virgo is a time where things get really real. And it's kind of interesting because it's almost like that saying that it's darkest before dawn. And that's kind of what this is. Not that it's, and technically I guess it's the other way around, right? Because this is technically the time where it starts to get darker, at least here in the northern hemisphere, right? Technically. But I want you to, I'm not gonna say I want you to. I recommend, honestly, I recommend you utilize the remainder of this Virgo season to not try and perfect, you know, I guess, your persona and what you've learned and all this stuff. Even though Virgo is very much so a sign of perfection, you know, a lot of that stuff gets sorted out during Pisces season. A lot of that stuff gets sorted out during Pisces season, and you restart over in Aries. So this isn't really about perfection, but this is about establishing oneself. And honestly, I would go as far as to say as healing oneself. Because Virgo is very much so a healing sign. You know, a lot of people like to think of the healing signs as the water signs, especially Cancer. Don't get it twisted. Virgo is very much so a sign of healing. Very much so a sign of healing. This transition from Virgo into Libra, especially this year, is going to be even more interesting. Especially considering that the 5th house of Libra is Aquarius. The 5th house is naturally ruled by Leo. And the South Node will be in Aquarius. South Node, being in Aquarius in the 5th house, is going to be interesting because this is going to be a moment where really the way to spirit, and this bridge to spirit, the way to really feel into the space and to really establish and maintain your connection to the divine is really going to go through your own heart. But you're going to have the courage to be unique and different, and you're going to have the courage to go against the grain. Because whether you like it or not, yes, Aquarius is very much so about rebellion energy, but there is not a lot of rebellion energy right now. It's kind of void. Because we have the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, retrograde in Taurus, which is a sign that it prefers not to be in. We have Mars in Aquarius, and yeah, it's going forward, but it's in shadow. And the South Node is here. And Mars still has to cross over the South Node. We don't have a lot of Aquarius energy. And the co-ruler of Aquarius, Saturn, is in its home sign of Capricorn, mind you. So that's good, but it's also in shadow. And it has the strain of coming closer to Pluto and cleaning up the mess that Pluto has made. Rightfully so. Because that's what Pluto's supposed to do. Listening to your heart is going to become so paramount now. Where literally it's actually going to become the rebellious thing to do. Because when the sun shifts into Libra, Leo will become the 11th house, naturally ruled by Aquarius, and that's where the North Node is. Which means that we're going to be called to be unique, innovative, different ourselves. Not that Leo isn't authentic, because Leo is. But what happens with Leo, the dark side of Leo, is that dictatorial or authoritarian monarchical rule by someone who is really up their ass. Their ego is through the roof, and they might have a big kingdom or queendom, but it's that monarch who doesn't really give a shit about anyone else and just cares about expanding their rule. That's the dark side of Leo. This is going to be a really interesting time, this next 30 days. And this is what makes this time very interesting, is because Aquarius becomes the 5th house energy, which is naturally ruled by Leo. Essentially, all the houses kind of reverse. That's what makes this energy so interesting when the sun enters into Libra, because it's almost like we live in a backwards world. It's like everything is inverted. You know? And I honestly didn't really think about this until just now. I've been following astrology for a while, but as far as the level that I'm doing it right now, I didn't even really think about this. But it's almost like the world is inverted. So it's interesting to see how these energies are going to play out. Capricorn is going to become the 4th house. Think about that. Capricorn's going to become the 4th house energy. Now, of course, these energies will play out differently based off if you know your ascendant and based off, of course, what house system you use. I'm saying this pretty much based off of the collective energy and assuming that the sun begins the 1st house or the 1st space energy. We need to make a video about that as far as the houses and the space and how the space is really important. Because, like, for example, I am a sun in Scorpio, which is the natural 8th house, but my sun in Scorpio is in the 12th house. So it's like my sun in Scorpio, it has these qualities of the 8th house, but it shines that light and that perspective through the scope of 12th house energy. Does that make sense? So, which essentially, what I've learned is that I can't hide from God. Like, I can't. Like, I actually can't. The 12th house is supposed to be the hidden zone, and Scorpio is very much a sign about hiding. But anytime you put a sun in the 12th house, honestly, since it illuminates that spot, you can't hide. And even for me, I really can't hide. Can't hide from God. You know? None of us really can, but 12th house suns definitely can. This is going to be a very interesting transition, considering all these energies. Utilize the rest of this Virgo transit really to appreciate your day-to-day reality. You might not perfect it. You might not perfect your craft. You might not perfect your routine, whatever you're trying to establish. You might not perfect whatever it is that you're trying to go for. But I really do believe that, especially in these final degrees of Virgo, which is going to be intense and quite emotional, because we're going to be wanting to get it right, and we're going to be wondering if we are able and if we are worthy in many ways, because then we move into Libra season, which is, you know, ruled by the planet Venus, which has very much so to deal with worth. But at this point, we feel like we are being judged. You know, like God, our guides, the universe, whatever it is that you want to call it. But this is the rest of this Virgo season. Utilize this time to not be hard on yourself. To, of course, I would say, know what you need to do to move forward and to evolve and to raise your vibration so you can move into a better space, so you can become a better server, spiritual server. Absolutely. But also, don't be so hard on yourself to where you beat yourself up, because you're going to carry that energy over into the fall time, into the autumnal equinox. And like I said, since Neptune, that Pisces energy, is going to become the 6th house of day-to-day reality, it's about to get a little paranormal in here. If it isn't already. It's gonna be a powerful time, guys. A very powerful time. And a very beautiful time. And I really do feel like the rest of September and of course October is going to be some of the most transformative months of this year. Really, this whole second half of the year. 2018, like a great majority of this year has been about clearing karma, clearing away the past, clearing away energy that has held us back. We are now just sort of finally stepping into this place where we can move forward. Now, we still have this full moon in Aries, which I believe is going to be sort of like, not that there's not going to be hurdles or challenges, but I do feel like this upcoming full moon in Aries, which is major, I don't know if you've seen it yet, conjunct Chiron, opposed Saturn conjunct Mercury, I mean Sun conjunct Mercury. It's like a 3-degree orb, but it's still there. It's still there. And The moon and sun will be squaring Saturn? Like what? And Mars is at 3 degrees, so it's also going to be sextile in this space. Almost forgot about that. Yeah, this is going to be a very powerful full moon. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to heal. Probably, honestly, one of the greatest opportunities of the entire year to heal. One of the greatest opportunities of the entire year to heal. And if you allow yourself to heal, if you allow yourself to be imperfectly perfect, perfectly imperfect, if you allow yourself to simply be and not stress too much about the details. That's the interesting thing about Virgo, is that it very much so stresses about the details, and that sometimes it's okay to be worried about the details. But this is going to be a time, this transition. That's what makes the transition from Virgo to Libra so challenging for some people. Is because they know. This is what makes Virgo season so challenging in general, because people know that Libra season's coming afterwards. And it's like they feel like that to get all the details figured out before you hit Libra. Because once that happens, guess where the details fall on? The details, which is the 6th house, that falls on Pisces energy, or spirits, Neptune. So it's like we feel like we have to try. It's almost like our last chance to try and control our reality. In many ways, because then after that, not that we completely control things now, you do attract your own reality, but there's at some point where we do relinquish a bit more control, probably a lot more control to spirit. And this is that moment, this transition right here from Virgo season into Libra season is a very pivotal moment where we relinquish the details of this reality to spirit. That's powerful, guys. Before it was Aquarius, we can kind of control that, even though Aquarius is alien and stuff like that. But it's very much about the people. Now it's going over to spirit and imagination, illusions and delusions, your beliefs. That's what's going to take care of the details now. That's why Libra season is a time where really you want to do your best to showcase the best of who you are. That's what makes Libra so charming. You know? Do your best. Don't sweat the small stuff. Do your best not to. And just really appreciate the day-to-day. Appreciate this time. Right now, I'm looking at a picture of fall. It's this beautiful tree. You'll see it. That's actually going to be the background of this video. It's a beautiful tree with the leaves, and it's beautiful orange, and I really loved it. I love orange therapy. And there's a little bit of green in there too, which is awesome. It actually makes this kind of almost like the perfect picture. Because when I saw this, I was trying to think of. I literally typed in. Well, I typed in orange therapy, but I totally forgot that that's legit. But I was looking up like autumn fall colors, because that's kind of what I wanted to go with, right? And I saw this picture, and it looks perfect because it has the orange in there, it has a little bit of the sky blue in the back, but it also has that green. And even has some grass coming through the leaves, and that's what this time is about. It's about, you know, yes, this is technically the time where it signals the harvest. The cold is coming, so we need to prepare for the cold coming, because will we be able to make it through this winter? Will we be able to make it through the cold months? And you absolutely can, and you absolutely will. You have. The way that you do that is by shining your light and beaming your light. That's an interesting thing about this, is because the energies become flipped. So Aquarius becomes the 5th house, which is naturally ruled by Leo, which is ruled by the sun. But the sun is a star, and Aquarius are stars. And the interesting thing about it is that when you look out into space, it seems like a big, vast nothingness. but then there are so many stars out there. But there's such a great distance between these stars. And it's interesting what happens is that a lot of times we will focus ourselves around a particular star because it provides that warmth. But what happens when you go way, 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 way out there, which is Aquarius? Aquarius energy is way out there. What happens? You get cold. You get detached. So how do you sustain yourself? By realizing that you are the star. You are love. You are the flame. You are the truth. You are it. You are presence. You are abundance. You are the star. You know? That's what makes Aquarius energy so powerful. That's what makes this age of Aquarius so powerful. Because it's really putting the power back in you. It really is. It's putting the power back in you. So I encourage you, like I said, this Virgo season, the rest of this Virgo season, to appreciate your day-to-day reality, to appreciate the changing of the tides. I encourage you to engage in some color therapy. The way that you can do that is like, you can just change the wallpaper on your desktop or on your phone to whatever color you want. So I have orange right now. Some of my go-to colors are orange, green. I really love purple. Yellow's really good too, like sunflowers, like will. But yeah, color therapy, especially right now since we're going into fall. I would say definitely some greens would be nice, but also your oranges, your yellows, and even your reds will be very powerful right now. And your golds. Appreciate the day-to-day. Try not to sweat the small stuff. Know that things will happen in divine timing. Know that the veil between this realm and the spiritual realm is becoming thinner. It is. So if you start, you know, having more psychic flare-ups, if you start hearing more people, if your ancestors start talking to you more, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. You know? This really is a beautiful experience. This really is. Beautiful experience. It's a beautiful journey. And even though Virgo is about perfection in many ways, if Virgo is really about perfection, then we would have been at Virgo. But no, we have 6 more signs to go through, guys. Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Cap, Aqua, and Pisces. Right? So, we are at a transition point. We are coming to the bridge. When we cross over this bridge, we will be somewhat in a bit of a new world. An inverted world, where the rules are the same, but they're kind of applied differently. So that's why you need to become a little bit more savvy, charismatic, and charming like Libra, right? Because you're going to really start to be talking to other people's higher selves. You're going to be talking more to their higher selves. And people are going to be channeling more of their higher self. More of their authenticity. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Exciting. And really a great opportunity to evolve and expand. And to, of course, create more peace and harmony, because that's what Libra is about, right? Peace and harmony. I love you all so much. Thank you for joining me on this video. It's 1:03 a.m. I'm tired. I gotta work in the morning. I'm gonna go lay down and watch some My Hero Academia, probably to go to sleep. But thank you so much for joining me. I probably will make another video on this subject. And I hope you all have a very lovely moment. A very beautiful moment. And know that you are able, beautiful, creative, divine, and also energetic. And always remember, my beautiful brothers and sisters, to keep moving forward. To stay focused and Yahoo! Smile often.